So lucky today to have some fantastic editors that are actually very good friends of mine. We have Richard and Colleen Halsey, ACE. Now, they've done dozens and dozens of movies together and separately before that, including 3, I think, with me.
Excellent movies.
Nothing you'd brag about.
No.
But Richard also won an Academy Award for a little movie called Rocky. And, and
40 years ago.
he also, they worked together on Edward Scissorhands and Sister Act. And Colleen has cut also dozens of TV movies on her own. So you guys have been around the business a while, definitely back to the film days. So let's talk about that. How has this changed your workflow, the transition from film to digital?
I think it's extended my career by 20 years because I don't have to carry around those big film cans anymore. Those Goldbergs. Very physically demanding editing on film.
And are there things you miss about film editing?
Nothing.
No, not really.
So it speeds up, so you have more time to be creative, I would guess?
It's different because you have more time to be creative, but then there's so many different choices. When you were cutting on film, you would look at it, study it, and really make a decision because you didn't want to have too many splices. So you were really careful. With digital, you just kind of jump in there more and fix it if it's not right.
It must make it much easier to collaborate for you two. You're both on different systems sometimes, cutting in different rooms, or maybe I know you were on the East Coast for a while recently, and you were both collaborating on a movie that I worked on.
Yeah, we were doing 2 at once.
You couldn't do that in film.
No.
Shipping it back and forth, waiting a few days for the dailies to arrive.
No.
Yeah, no. No, like I said, I think the big thing is not to resist change, always be open for what's happening. I mean, you could go back when you think historically when they switched from silent films to sound films. That was a big deal. Next big deal, I see is when you went from analog to digital. And I don't miss the smell of the film and the oxidation coming off the soundtrack. These days, I feel that digital filmmaking is so cost effective. There's so much that people can accomplish with very little money because of the digital technology. And I think it's really opened the door for young filmmakers. I mean, it's incredible what one can do.
Well, how do you approach a project? I know there's a lot of young editors here that probably never done a feature, and it might seem intimidating when you look at all that footage. How do you break it down? Where do you start? What's your process?
Well, first, this assistant has to get it in and organized. And I have had the same system my whole career. The assistant works in the morning, gets me all organized, and I jump in the afternoon and edit. And then Richard will come in and he'll take a look and maybe make a change, maybe not. And you move scene to scene. And I try to keep up everything I get in one day. I want to finish that day.
You like keeping up with a production, working while they're shooting?
As much, as that's the ideal. But often they'll shoot and not have an editor on.
Big mistake.
Another thing with productions going digital is that directors tend to want to keep the camera rolling and rolling and rolling. That
Yeah,
must be
3
quite
takes
different.
within, they say it's take 1 and there's 3 takes within it.
There's
So
not
you have to
lot
have
of
a good
discipline.
assistant.
That must be a lot harder to go through that much
I have
more
my
footage.
assistant, my daughter, she goes through and she marks all the starts.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of say that line again, do this, do that. Actors don't like that. Actors, that confuses them, from my point of view.
I know cinematographers don't get as much respect as they used to. How about editors in the industry today?
Well, that's one reason why we're like a mom and pop shop. We do everything in our studio. I am one that likes to control everything in the editing room. An example, Tim Burton on Edward Scissorhands spent 24 hours in the editing room.
So he
I
did not-
never worked.
Manage?
No, not at all. I never worked directly with Tim. We discussed things. You know,
I worked with him.
Colleen worked with him for a couple of days. That was it.
Well, he storyboarded.
Yeah, he's a tremendous visionary. So I think a lot of it depends on the temperament of the director.
What kind of advice can you're such successful editors, what about for people that are up and coming? What can you, career advice or anything like that to offer?
I'm a big fan of controlling your environment. If you're the editor, you don't work in a 10 by 10 room with no windows. I believe the editor should be respected. He should have his own space, control his space, control his environment. Not easy to do. Well, I have 3 rules of editing. Number 1 rule, organization. Rule number 2, trust your instincts. Rule number 3, always tell the truth. Rule number 3 is the hardest. In Hollywood, it's not easy to always tell the truth.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, James.